Hello guys and welcome to my full ancestry report and comparison of my DNA results. I did not just one DNA test, I did three. I did 23andme, ancestry and myheritage, and I'm gonna compare it all to you. But before we go into my DNA results, let me first tell you a little bit about my family, about the history of my family I know, and about the reason why I took a DNA test at all. First of all, I'm German, born and raised here in Germany, but my family history is a little bit more complicated. My father was from Spain. My mother is half German, half Norwegian. So, according to family history, there gotta be at least three kinds of results. Half Spanish, quarter Norwegian, quarter German. That's what to expect. About the Norwegian family, we know nearly everything. My mother did a lot of research and found out that the whole family stayed at nearly the same place. My grandmother was 100% Norwegian from Trøndelag. That's the area in central Norway around Trondheim. And in the last 400 years, there was just very few new influences from other parts of Norway and Sweden, but more or less I'm related to everyone from that area. The family tree after 200 years turned into a family pillar. About my Spanish family, I do not know that much. My father is born in Madrid, the capital of Spain, but his parents weren't really native from that place. As far as we know, my father's side came from Atienza, which is in the northeast from Madrid, and my father's mother's side came from South Spain in Andalusia, in Somentin. About the German heritage, we do know a lot of things, not everything. There were a lot of back ends when my mother did the research. But as far as we know, we can trace back our family to basically three areas. The first area is in East Prussia, which is not Germany anymore today, but which was Germany before Second World War. And it's the area of today East Poland and Russia. More or less about Kaliningrad, the area where one part of the family came from. Basically, my grandfather's father's side was from East Prussia. The second big area is about Thüringen and Sachsen, the area where my German grandfather's father's mother came from. A little bit complicated, I'm sorry. And the other regions are basically in central and western Germany, areas which are nowadays called Hessen and Rheinland-Pfalz. This is so far as we know our family history. The biggest back ends we encountered were in East Prussia. Because of the war, a lot of the old church books got burned, and our family could not be traced back, totally back. Not 400 years like in Norway, as we could. And the fewest do we know about our family in Spain. Especially from my Spanish grandmother's side, we only know what my grandmother said, but for my grandmother, we don't even have a birth certificate. Oh, difficult word. Due to the civil war in Spain in the 1930s, all got lost there. and my grandmother didn't talk that much about her family. And there were a lot of rumors and a lot of things that were, well, let's say, some there were a lot of possibilities about our family history. For example, from my Spanish grandmother, the family from Andalusia in South Spain, there always were the rumor of African ancestry, which is not impossible, as Andalusia is very close to Africa, just a few hundred kilometers above the sea. And in Andalusia, there were harbors which played an important role in slave trade back in the 17th and 18th century. So there is a possibility that there could be some kind of African ancestry. Although I am as white as snow, there will not be a lot, I guess. From the German side, there are two possibilities of things I don't know. The one is maybe some Jewish influences. My mother's maiden name was Rautenberg, which would be nowadays in United States considered Jewish, but it's not necessarily. There do exist German families with the name Rautenbergs, but also non-Jewish families. Rautenberg was the name of three cities in Eastern Europe, Eastern Germany, and from the city came the family name. So it does not necessarily say if they were Jewish or Christian, but it is a possibility. It could be that there were Jewish ancestry in my family. The next thing is my German heritage goes far, far, far into the east of Europe, and some of the church books my mother found were even written in Lithuanian language. So it might be that there are some Slavic tribes or at least Eastern Europe ancestors in our family history there. Don't know how much, don't know if it even is there, but those were the questions I had when I made the DNA tests. To the results. Let us compare what the three biggest companies found out or believe to have found out about me. Let's start with 23andme. 23andme, that was quite a big surprise, had a lot of Norwegian ancestry. 43.2% Norwegian, which is far too high actually, as just my grandmother was from Norway. It should be around 25% and not that much, that high. So that was quite surprising to me to see. Whereas the Spanish heritage, about 52%, is more or less accurate, like expected. And there even is a little bit of Eastern European in my family, as I suspected, and some broadly European. So from that ancestry, it looks like my German grandfather also was Scandinavian, which is not impossible to say, as the eastern part of Europe has been part of Swedish colonies. That is true, but he must have been purely Scandinavian from that point. So the Scandinavian part is interesting but disturbing and quite not what I expected. 23andme also offers maps and tries to trace back the DNA not just to a country, but also to different parts of the country. And that is highly interesting. If we look to the Norwegian part, you can see that in the middle of Norway there is a very, very dark blue part, and in the middle there is this little island where my grandmother actually is born, so the Norwegian result is absolutely accurate. This is, yes, this is where my grandmother came from. And this dark part is where all the family history my mother found out came from. Absolutely correct. In Spain, we can find that in the south of Spain, Andalusia is darker than most of the west parts of Spain, which fits to the stories my grandmother told, that her parents came from South Spain, came from Andalusia. More surprising is the northeastern part, Catalonia. That was unexpected because Catalonia had always a special role in Spain. Till today, it tries to be independent, which historically and ethnically has good reasons and points, but not trying to get any position in that political discussion. But it was still surprising, as we didn't knew in our family that there was any part from Catalonia in our family. So this was quite a surprise to us. Let's get to the next part, ancestry. Or ancestry, I'm not sure. I have seen videos from native speakers and some say ancestry, some say ancestries. Is that like tomato? You can choose how to say it. It's I'm not sure what is the correct term. Hit it in the comments if you know what is correct. Ancestry or ancestry, ancestors or ancestors. Let's see what ancestry or ancestry has found out about me. Again, Spain is the highest with 38%, which is not the half, but still it's the biggest part. And you can see Südspanien, southern Spain, again the biggest group within Spain, also accurate, also fitting to a family history. The next part we see Norway, 27%, which is highly different to 23andme, but far more accurate to our family history, as just my grandmother on my mother's side was from Norway, and there was to expect just 21%, a quarter of me being from Scandinavia. This fits very, very well. And again, within Norway, you can find that Trøndelag, the area around Trondheim, is the biggest part they could identify within my Norwegian DNA. The next one was a big surprise. England at Northwest Europe. There is no history of any English or British family in our history, but as it says Northwestern European, this DNA is rather widespread around Europe and does not necessarily go back to the British Islands. The next is Sweden and Denmark, which again fits to my Norwegian grandmother, but with the 7% there and the 27% in Norway, we're already at 34. So far more than just a quarter Norwegian, as expected. The next one was a big surprise, Baskenland. The Basque land between Spain and France is also a very special region. It's a very own ethnicity. They're not even Indo-Europeans. They're derived from a folk that is far older than the Indo-Europeans in Europe. And it's not impossible, as my Spanish grandfather came from the northeastern part of Spain, which is not that far away from the Basque-land. So it might be, but it was a surprise. We didn't know anything about that. The next two ones are rather surprising. Balkan can mean Croatia, Serbia, Romania, Greece, the whole peninsula in the southeastern part of Europe. And there's absolutely nothing in our family history from that part. And France, well, my German grandfather has some roots going back to the western parts of Germany, which are very close to France, and some parts of it had been French for a while. So there might be French influences there, but it's still surprising that it shows. And what we do not see is German again. And the last one, myheritage. The myheritage results are pretty close to ancestry results. Again, the Iberian, so Spain and Portugal are put together to Iberian, is about 36%, so a little bit more than a third, not a half as expected. Again, we have the Scandinavian with a little bit more than a quarter, and Scandinavian again could trace back to Trondheim in Norway. So the Scandinavian part is very accurate, the Iberian part too. And again we have British Isles. Irish, Scottish and Welsh, 21.7%, and English, 8.8%. So according to myheritage, again, there is around more than a quarter from Great Britain. So either my German grandfather was not my German grandfather, but some Englishman. I have no explanation for that. It only can be that the British people and the German people are very, very close each other, are very, very related on the basis on their DNA, that the algorithm cannot really differ. The last thing, Italian, 4.4%. I guess it's actually part of the Spanish DNA I have inside of me. First of all, from my father's side, is something missing, and with 4.4%, it would fit, as the southern parts of Italy, especially Sicily, had been part of Spain for a lot of time. So it could be that it is originally from Italy. It could just be that Italy and Spain are so closely related that it is some DNA which is widely spread in both countries and just more common in Italy than in Spain, but is spread in both countries anyways. So these are my results from all three DNA companies, and part of it is very, very accurate. So the Spanish, Norwegian part are very accurate, perfectly, as to say, as they could trace back my Norwegian grandmother to their home county. But about the German heritage, I'm not German. I'm born and raised here. German is my native language. I have a German passport, but I'm not German at all on a DNA basic. So what am I? Well, as Spanish actually is there, Norwegian is there, supposedly British is there for any reason. Maybe some from Balkan, maybe even Eastern Europe. I think I just call myself European. Well, thank you for listening to my family history and to my comparison of the DNA results. Maybe it can help you finding the perfect test for you. And if you liked the video, leave a like, leave a comment, and the next video will be a lip sync, I guess. Bye!